Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have a treat. Our guest today is somebody who our wives connected us, really. I was in his world, so to speak, and we'll dive into that at some point during the conversation. But our kids were in the same preschool, and my wife has been bugging me for the longest time. Hey, you gotta get in touch with Michael. You gotta, you guys are doing similar stuff. You should connect with him. And it was a long time coming, but eventually we connected through, I don't know, Facebook Messenger, then text message. Then we got on a call, we had a conversation, and I said, you know what, let's start on the podcast and expose you to the Profit with Law world and the people that are here. So I'm excited to finally make this happen and to have Michael here on the show. So let me tell you a little bit about Michael and his background, and I'm going to give you the canned pre-written thing first, and then we'll jump into a conversation. You get to really meet him and get to know him. So Michael, as a litigator and national trial attorney, exposes liars and upholds truth. Michael Smikun was an indispensable leader in successfully obtaining 2 of the top 100 jury verdicts in the country, including the largest jury verdict in the state of Arizona in 2016, $27.6 million, and the 4th largest in the state of New Jersey in 2014, $33.4 million. Michael has successfully argued and won cases in courts across the country, including the United States Court of Appeals for the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 9th Circuits, state trial and appellate courts, the New Jersey Supreme Court, and has been admitted to the United States Supreme Court. As a business and corporate lawyer, Michael confronts challenges, reveals unspoken objections, and brings absolute certainty to make sure your deal gets done. Although proud of his achievements in the courtroom and the boardroom, Michael is most proud of his ability to quickly and efficiently resolve disputes and create agreements with a single telephone call and a letter. I love that. Single telephone call. Michael attacks every matter with immense caring, unstoppable urgency, and ferocious aggression to achieve the firm's mission to fundamentally change the way people feel about lawyers, one client at a time. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And it is a pleasure to be here. Moshe, I don't even know if you know this. I think I'm 2 days past your 4-year anniversary on the show. So when I went back to the beginning of time, I looked and I'm like, what a great honor, like right here at the 4-year mark. So I just want to honor and acknowledge you for the energy, the commitment, the just love for what you do to make sure that week in, week out, you are here and producing this for over 4 years. So congratulations to you on that.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that. And the truth is that I didn't have the date, notched on the calendar. I do know that I started in March of 2019, but I didn't know the exact date. And for folks listening, we're recording this on March 28th, 2023. So this is actually going to be released beyond, at a date later than that. But I guess that's when it was. So I really appreciate that. And when I started podcasting, my podcast coach, the person who I learned from, his name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and he used to be known as the podcast answer man. Now he's kind of morphed into more of a personal development figure. He told me that the number one thing, it doesn't have to be a perfectly edited show. It doesn't have to be a perfectly produced show. It doesn't have to have the best audio. The number one secret to success is consistency. If your audience knows when to show up, they know when you're going to be there. That's what, makes the show grow. And what's crazy is that from then to now, we have released a guest interview every Thursday. Every Thursday morning, we release a guest interview. I also did solo episodes for a while, kind of stopped doing those for now. I might bring them back, but consistency has been the name of the game. And it's really, it shows in our numbers. It's just amazing how many people are coming and listening to our show now. Michael, I want to jump into just a quick, tell your own story. Our listeners probably don't know who you are. Some of them might have heard of you, but many of them don't know who you are. And I read the official bio, but tell us who, your background and maybe how you became a lawyer, how you ended up working Caligy Law. And then, there's other stuff that you guys are working on with Unblinded. So give us the broad strokes of the history, but also what's going on right now.
Yeah, sure. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I kind of had really inauspicious beginnings. I'm the child of immigrants, first generation immigrants who came over from the Ukraine in 1970. I was born here, so I'm American. Um, and like a lot of immigrants, they did not make a lot of money. My mom cleaned houses. My dad drove a taxi. We lived in the projects in Flushing, Queens, and that was a very different existence. And there were times where there was a lot of physicality, a lot of bullying, a lot of just being jumped around the corner. And there was this deep ingrained feeling, need, and desire to never feel like a victim of circumstance, but more to the point to make sure that people were not going to be victimized. I don't know when exactly it was that I was going to decide to leverage that to become a lawyer, to become an advocate. I kind of remember the moments. I was in college. I was studying for my BBA in finance and investments. I thought I was going to be a broker on Wall Street. And I took a law of business organization course. And shame on me, I do not remember the professor's name, but he had one of the most profound impacts on my life because I loved the course. I loved the content. It was agency and partnership and all these interesting subjects. And I took the final. I was the first one done. And I went to hand it in, and he grabbed my hand and he shook it and he held it and he goes, "Would you please consider becoming an attorney? You would be an honor to the profession." And when I tell that story, I still get a little emotional about it because I had never thought about it before. And I'm like, you know what? Let's look into this. What is required? So I'm like, there's a test that we have to take. Great, no problem. I'm a great test taker. So I took the test, the LSAT. I did reasonably well the first time. Wasn't happy with the results. Studied my butt off for the next 2 months. Did very well. Got accepted with a scholarship to Seton Hall Law School in New Jersey. Studied there. Exited. Had no idea what I wanted to do inside the profession. Ended up working for one law firm. And then when they were downsizing, one of the partners was more heartbroken than I was about having to be let go. And he said, "Can I make a call to this gentleman that I used to work for? You would be an unbelievable addition to his team." And that person was my current law partner, Sean Callaghy. And that's when I joined the Callaghy law firm as a litigation attorney, as the leader of their medical provider workers' compensation group, where we led the state in most workers' comp filings by a giant margin. Now, we've collected, for all medical providers over the last probably 15 years, close to I think it's $750 million for medical providers. But mostly my practice then began to get focused in commercial litigation, business litigation, and representing medical providers in their healthcare issues. And it's the commercial and business litigation where those two top 100 national jury verdicts came from. And then from there, it became, how do you create even more value? How do you unlock even more value? Because your time commitment to any one attorney consumes a unit of your time, and you only have so much time. And from there, I branched out and supported my law partner then in the launching of the Unblinded movement, and in another company called Fit to Exit, which essentially takes the sum total of the business, law, litigation, transactional knowledge base, reduces it in a way that allows entrepreneurs to learn how to ideate, design, and then ultimately execute on their ideal exit. So yes, a lot of different things going on in that regard, and happy to discuss in any way that serves you, Moshi, or your audience on any of those subjects.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the compilation of things that you have between the law firm helping people and realizing that there's, even if as we add attorneys, there's just only so much impact that we can have with the work that we're doing in the law firm. Then we start Unblinded to try to help people with expanding their networks and serving others in different ways within the capacity of what they're already doing. And then Fit to Exit, where you're helping people to move on from what they've built and turn their legacy into further legacy in their process. And what's interesting is as you're sharing the trifecta of what you're doing, I'm realizing, first of all, I want to share my story of why I do what I do. I think we talked about it when we spoke the last time, but for our listeners, I'll remind you, because I've talked about it on the podcast here before. So the reason I even started my business and the journey that I'm on is because I'm on a mission to help people create generational wealth. And why is generational wealth so important to me? Because my grandfather came from Nazi Germany when he was 11 years old. And before he passed, he gave each of his 36 grandchildren a down payment on the first home purchase. And
Wow.
he had some financial success, and he turned that into something that would give all of us a firm footing on our American dream, on our financial journey. That, I mean, people take years to save up money for their first home purchase, and I was a homeowner at 21,
Wow.
and I couldn't have done that without what he did. And I want to help people do that same thing. I want to help people not just create wealth for themselves so they get to live their best and fullest life, but to be able to leave a legacy in some way, shape, or form, whether it's to their children or to their community or to the world, right? Everybody has different motivations. But what I'm noticing is that you are, with the pieces you've put together, you are also creating a similar impact where you're helping people with doing that. And what's interesting is that there's three, I teach the law firm growth formula, which has three concentric circles, but inside those circles where they all come together, there's three freedoms that we want to achieve in the growth of our business. And that's time freedom, financial freedom, and impact freedom.
Wow.
And the impact freedom is the thing that people pay the least attention to, because first we just want to replace a job we would have had, right? Then we realize, we can make more money. I want to have more wealth. I want to have a bigger house. I want to have a nicer car. I want to just be comfortable. Then we realize that it's not about the money, and we want to be free to be able to do what we want when we want, and we want that time freedom. It's only once you've achieved those two that you can really realize, wow, there's something more. Like,
Wow.
what's next? Because I got time, I got money, but there's more to it. I still feel empty, right? Or I still don't have. One of the things with our coaching clients, we give them a book called Living Forward. It's written by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy. And in that book, it's basically about creating your life plan. And one of the exercises that they have you do is to write your own eulogy.
Wow.
And if somebody writes their own eulogy, they'll come to realize that probably everything I've done up until today isn't what I want to be known for.
Yeah.
And if I really think about what I want to be known for, I need to start doing something different. And that's the impact that we leave. And I think that that's the ultimate guide to success, right? Like, how much impact am I having? How can I impact people more, better, in a different way? And what you're doing is exactly that. So that's awesome. And I'd love to dive into how can people unlock that? How can people expand the impact that they're creating on the world, not just make more money or have more time?
Yeah. And I'm happy to respond to that. But first, I just want to thank you for your vulnerability. I felt your energy. I felt your love and appreciation for what your grandfather did for you. I did not know that. You did not mention that previously. And I'm just touched that you were comfortable enough to share that story with me, especially this early on in our relationships. I just want to honor you for that. And so I was blessed with a gift. And it really is a gift. It's something that changes the trajectory of your life, no matter where you are, what your life circumstances are, whether you have no money and whether you have a lot of money. And I learned that from my law partner, and he's just an incredible man. His name is Sean Callaghy, and an incredible attorney, an incredible human being, a wonderful father through and through. And he had what he would describe as a formula to achieve success inside of your life, whatever that outcome is, personal or professional, whether you want to improve your relationship with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, to create more impact and contribute more inside of your community, or to just make more money. There's no shame in that, right? Or have more time freedom to do the things that you want to do in your profession. And what that formula really does is it boils down how everybody achieves success, period. And one of the biggest frustrations of his life is and was that whenever he invested or put his time or his money into personal growth and development, he began to experience the incompleteness without disrespect to a lot of the content that's out inside of the world. And so his life's mission was to come and to synthesize, contribute, add distinctions too, but to synthesize all of the information that is out there and put it into a blueprint, a model that one can follow to achieve any level of success. And so whether your outcome is to be the most productive and amazing lawyer in the world, whether it is to own your own business and have associates or partners that are doing the production on the work, and you're going out and trying to create more growth, the formula is universal, just like gravity, right? And it's what everybody uses to achieve success. And I think what hit me most is something that you just shared, Moshe, in terms of the concentric circles and the freedoms that are in the middle of it. And the freedoms, as Sean would put it, are very much the same, just a different word, right? It's more money, more time freedom, and more magic. So that would be your time freedom, your money, and impact, right? It's the exact same thing. And that's what everybody in the world works with, with very few exceptions. Everybody wants to make more money, and there's zero shame in that. For some reason, people are sometimes ashamed to say they want to make more money or have more money or have more of the trappings of the wonderful things in life. To have more time freedom, to create more magic in your life. And if you like, I can share what that formula is in very quickly, but you could spend a weekend learning it. You could spend 14 years like I did in working with Sean, learning it and continuing to make distinctions within it.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between learning and executing. And
yes.
when we start to execute what we've learned is when we start the actual learning process. And what people don't realize is, as business owners, it's a learning experience for the entire journey. One of my coaches tries to put this into a way that people can understand. He says, like, if you read a book from cover to cover on how to swim, and we can grill you and test you on every single page, every single word in the book, and it backwards and forwards, you're going to get 100 every single time. Until you get in the water, you don't know how to swim. Right. So people spend too much time learning and not enough time executing, and it's the execution that really makes the difference. So yeah, I definitely want you to share that formula with us, but with the caveat that, like, hearing the formula on this podcast is great, but you got to actually try to put it into actual actions that you take. So, I love that we share these things, but podcast listeners, you're out there, you're driving, you're running, you're in the shower, whatever you're doing while you're listening to this. I want you to just recognize that what you're about to hear is probably something you want to go back when you have a paper in front of you and write down, put it on the wall, and then try to start putting it into execution. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and share that with us now, Michael?
Yeah. And listen, I want to honor you. You're 100% correct. Right. And the way I would describe it from a slightly different angle, and for some people, everybody has a different convincer strategy. Some people need to see it. Some people need to hear it. Some people need to witness it, experience it, and read it. And so, yeah, everybody has a different strategy. The way I would describe it is there's intellectual knowledge, and $3.50 will buy you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, right? Because it's meaningless for impact in your life. There's then emotional knowledge, where you actually feel emotionally and recognize what value it can have inside of your life when deployed, when executed upon. And then there's the physical knowledge, the actual doingness of it, the application of the learnings that you had. And it's that last knowledge, the physical knowledge, is what actually creates the trajectory changing in your life. The emotional knowledge allows you to explain it to people so they understand it. And the intellectual knowledge means that you yourself can understand it or appreciate it. And so the formula actually is very straightforward. It's built on 3 pillars. All of this stuff sounds very similar. It's almost like there's a universal truth about things, but it's built on 3 pillars. There's self-mastery, process mastery, and influence mastery. Influence mastery can be replaced with any skill. So if you wanted to get better at swimming, right, you would say self-mastery, process mastery, and then swimming mastery, right? Whatever it is. But in order to be an effective business developer, to grow and to create more profit, more money, more time freedom, and more impact, right? You need to be able to have a superpower, and that superpower is influence. So the formula is self-mastery, process mastery, influence mastery. Self-mastery is the actual discipline with which you use to follow through. So you had shared something beautiful, and that is being consistent. Being consistent is a self-mastery challenge, right? It's not what you do, it's not how you do it, it's to get yourself to do it. And I want to honor you that you're here today. You have a couple of personal challenges, some uncertainty that's been created inside your life. And I gave you an out. I said, hey, Moshe, if you want to reschedule this, I'm all good. And you stuck with it. And that demonstrates to me a very high level of self-mastery, right? A devotion to this. And so self-mastery is pillar number one. Pillar number two is process mastery. This is the actual formula, the thing that you do, the recipe for your success. Process mastery has 4 parts underneath of it. That is process modeling, meaning who do you know that has the result that you want and got it in the way that you want to get it? You don't have to recreate the wheel and figure out how to produce that result. Just follow what they did and do exactly what they did. And when I say do exactly what they did, I mean do exactly what they did. Now, if you want to have a family and have a beautiful social life, and this person achieves success by sacrificing those things, then don't follow this person as a model because they didn't achieve the result that you wanted, because you want this stuff and the family and social. So you have to choose the right model. And once you've chosen the right model, you have to do exactly what it is that they did. Underneath of modeling, there's time blocking, because you're going to be taking new actions, right? And in order to make yourself take new actions, you need to actually schedule the taking of those actions, because it's not innate, it's not automatic, it's not what you normally need to do. Beneath time blocking is maximizing through measuring and monitoring. If you're not measuring and monitoring something, you can't possibly know what impact it's having on your life, and therefore you can't maximize it. And then finally, innovation. So once you've done all the things and you've achieved some modicum of success following the recipe, then you could start innovating. Too many people get to innovation first, where they go, hey, this person did A, B, C, and D. I don't need to do C and D. I'm going to do A, B, E, F. And then they don't achieve a result. And they go, that person doesn't know what they're talking about, right? They went to innovation too quickly. So you have self-mastery, that's process mastery, and then you have influence mastery, which we refer to as the 4-12-4. There's a 4-step communication model for developing any relationship. There's 4 energies that we utilize in order to achieve any result that we set out to achieve. And then there's 12 indispensable elements of influence mastery. Influence mastery is one of those things that, whether you believe in it or not, it's true. Influence is a superpower. There's people who have it. There's people who don't. There's people who study to have it. There's people who have conditioned behaviors in order to achieve influence, but it's just like gravity. It's like jumping out the window. Whether you know the word gravity or understand the theory, you're going to go splat all the same. And so that's the power of influence in understanding a communication model, energies of influence and energetic and emotional transference, and then 12 indispensable elements that are just present, things like scarcity and understanding how the mind works in terms of time commitments, fear and uncertainty that's created from you trying to take my money, my time, my energy. There's things like the matching and mirroring process, acknowledgements, level 5 listening, love with boundaries, emotional and energetic transference, reciprocity, and understanding its power, the power of questions, validations, congruence, right? The words, body language, vocal qualities all align congruently to create an authentic experience that makes you believable and acceptable, and people actually like you because of it. And then there's the ability to create context and contrast. So that's just the 12 indispensable elements. That's a lot, right, to do. And you're like, well, great. I'll never have success then if it requires me to do all those things. The reality is, like with all formulas, you have to study it, understand it, know it, emotionally understand its impact, and then physically put it into practice and watch the trajectory of your life change. And none of this depends on having, like I said, money, success, fame, reputation, anything along those lines. You could do all the things that I've done in my career without 2 top 100 national jury verdicts. And all of it comes from the consistent application of a formula, which is a holistic system to produce whatever results you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, I love the model, and I love I mean, everything makes sense. Like, what, you got to step into the result, and you have to, there are certain things that you have to do a certain way, and if you don't, it's not going to happen. We can probably spend 2 hours just diving into the model you just shared, or more. I know you said that you could spend 14 years really getting mastery at that model. So what I actually want to do is there's a few things that I wanted to cover today that just because of time, we kind of need to jump through them. So I actually want to switch gears for a moment. One of the things we said in your bio, and you mentioned it a couple of times, and it's a huge accolade. Like, it is something that you should, scream from the rooftops, and is this, 2 top 100 national jury verdicts. And our listeners, when they're listening to the show, that it's very easy for them to say, oh, that's why this person is successful, but me, I don't have that, right? I don't have 2 top 100 national jury verdicts. So how does somebody who doesn't have that achieve success? Like, that's what paved the way for you. And what's interesting is that even in my world, and helping business owners and coaching them, mentoring them, there's people who will look at another coach and they'll say, wow, look at his success. But what they don't see is like the 10 years that went in before that. They don't see all the work and effort and consistency that had to happen, and mastery that had to happen to just get to where they are today. So I wanted to just ask you about your own journey, because and your law firm's journey, which it's not, you didn't start it, but you've been there long enough that the history. For somebody who's listening to this show, they own their own law firm. They want a level of success, whatever that level is. Is there a secret or a set of things that they need to get really good at to achieve any level of success in their business? And what is that?
Sure. I would say if there was one thing that you would point to about how to unlock and achieve the level of success on the business side of your law firm, it would be how to unpack value and how to identify what value people see in you to achieve, right? And I'm sure this has happened to you a lot, Moshe, but people are like, hey, I'll come on your podcast and I'll be one of your speakers, right? There's a lot of attorneys out there in the world, many of them potentially more successful than I am. For me to be so presumptuous as to assume that my identity is how I give you my greatest value would show a fundamental lack of understanding of what value you want and what you desire, right? There's a lot of different things that you're doing with your business, the tax support that you're doing, the podcasts, learning how people value things and what they actually need from you is a skill set that must be developed that a lot of people don't fully appreciate and understand. And so the first is just asking questions like, how do I maximally serve you? What are you missing? What's the biggest challenge that you have in unlocking all the money, time, freedom, and impact that you're trying to create inside of your life? And if you've established emotional rapport with them at a high enough level, they'll tell you exactly what the biggest challenge is. And you as a human being have a lot of different values, right? So value number one is your identity, who you are, what makes you a hero inside of the world. So I'm an attorney. I'm also a business owner with Fit to Exit. I'm also a father. I'm also a lot of different things. And that's all of my identity. So does my identity support this person? For Moshe, probably not, right? The week in, week out, he's having attorneys on here that are talking about how they've unlocked success. Many of them probably more successful than me, probably a lot of them less successful than I am. But identity probably isn't it. The second value is relationship capital. meaning who you know, who you're connected with, the ecosystems within which you have the ability to get them to say yes. So Moshi has beautiful and wonderful value for me, right? I want to make sure that I'm offering always integrally more value than I'm taking. But by Moshi being so gracious to put me on his podcast and host me here, he is allowing me to reach a lot of people. And so to me, Moshi has a wonderful amount of relationship capital. And I can only hope that I can give him back relationship capital as well. There's a lot of people in my community that I'm sure he would love to meet and to connect with that can create value, whether it's through ecosystem merging, shared experiences, speaking engagements, whatever it is. But that's the second value, relationship capital. The third is a very important one. That's monetary capital, right? So if you're trying to grow a business, you're trying to take on partners, you're trying to get a big project started, people need money. People need folks that have the ability to write checks. And there's a lot of folks in this world that is their chief value, right? Investment banks, banks that give mortgages, VC capital investments, things of that nature. That would be a form of monetary capital. So that's a third value, right? So for those playing at home, it's identity, relationship capital, and monetary capital. And the fourth is teammates with unique skills, right? So I may have folks on my team that can support Moshi in certain ways, right? I may be a teammate with a unique skill that if we were to join forces and ecosystem merge, that I may bring a unique skill to the table that may support him. And it may not be my skill as an attorney. It may be my skill as a public speaker. It may be my skill in the business arena. It may be my skill in terms of helping to edify him and to enhance his value inside of the world to other business owners and things of that nature. Maybe a unique skill that I have. Learning how to discern what value people need actually, instead of telling them or being so presumptuous and audacious to assume that they're just looking for your identity, being able to ask for it and understanding how to amplify all of those values inside of yourself so you can make yourself as productive as humanly possible and connect with people as much as possible is the super skill to actually amplifying anybody's business platform, anybody's law firm, anybody's anything, because it allows for the creation of even more relationship capital, which is how a lot of your sales meetings and things all happen without getting too deep into it.
So are these relationships or I mean, relationship capital seems like the biggest piece of this, right? Like all the other things kind of go hand in hand with it. An ecosystem merge starts with a relationship. Unlocking true value starts with understanding the other person. So it all starts with a relationship. Are we talking about a relationship with your prospective client, or is this relationships with other people who can potentially do business with you, send business your way, and all of that? And I know it might not be either or, but for those listening, when they're thinking about this, like you gave a lot of examples with me, which is great. It's great for them to relate to the subject matter. But the reality is that they're sitting there saying, well, I don't have a podcast and I'm not speaking on stages and I'm, where's this value, unlocking value for my client? How does that turn into when my clients are all coming for me for the same thing? Like even you, for example, right? Your clients are coming to you with a business problem that they need litigated. Are you finding out that they have a kid who's trying to get into a certain college and you can actually help their kid get into that college as part of the process of getting them as a client? Like give me some more depth to how our listeners can start to lean into this, definition and unlocking of value.
Sure. It's a wonderful question. So I'll give you an example of something that happened to me not so long ago. So I had a person come in who was seeking services. They were having a challenge with their business partner. The business was beginning to collapse because of the deadlock in terms of their ability to manage the affairs. And as we developed our relationship, even in the first conversation that we had with this person, where their energy was mostly focused was on the fact that they had a child that unfortunately was suffering horribly from drug addiction. And it's just one of the hardest things as a parent to imagine that this can happen, and just feeling completely and utterly powerless to support. And I gave that person a gift. And that gift was my listening at the highest level, and really genuinely loving this person with appropriate boundaries to feel their soul and what this was doing to them. And I also happen to have a relationship with a drug rehabilitation system that rehabilitates folks from drug addiction using music. And so it was this beautiful opportunity for me to connect these two people together. So remember, a client came in talking about a business dispute, which my identity could support. And I could have developed a very satisfactory relationship with this person by just saying, yes, I'm the attorney for you. I can support you with these business affairs. I have 2 top 100 national jury verdicts. I'm a great litigator. I'm also good in conflict and dispute resolution. But what actually created a very powerful relationship was my listening about their personal challenge, right, with their child, and being able to connect them with someone that I know that does a wonderful job in supporting people with drug addiction. That is a relationship that now is for life. Trusted advisor, minimum, right? Friend, minimum. Raving fan, minimum. And when a person hates what you do, right, they tell a lot of people. When a person likes what you do, they may tell 1 or 2. When they love you and like are raving fans, they find reasons to talk about you. And that begins the process of amplifying your business. Now you're like, well, how many times do I have to do this? As often as you can. And what does it really take from you to give a person the gift of listening and to help and to give them more parts of your value by connecting them with other individuals that can support them in other facets of your life? You do that enough times consistently, then your growth is almost assured. And it's not linear, it's exponential, because they're communicating to everybody. They're falling over themselves to want to work with you. They want to tell everybody in the world how great you are. And all you've done is give them more value than you've asked in return for yourself. And that's the core to all of it. Does that support?
Absolutely. And folks, rewind 90 seconds and listen to that again. Just rewind 90 seconds, listen to that again. Perfectly said. That was beautiful. And in the essence of time, I'm just going to let you mic drop here, right? Like that was perfect, and really hones in the idea of there's a lot more to a relationship than what you can provide as an attorney to your client. And if you can start to figure out how to unlock that, if you can start to figure out how to develop that relationship and lean into it, that's what's going to really move the needle in your business. And that's what's going to really make you successful. It doesn't happen overnight. So you got to have the staying power. You got to be able to be consistent with your actions, because as you lay these seeds, they will eventually turn into a forest of trees. Michael, as we close out the show, I always close out the same way. I'm going to ask you 2 things. Number one, what is one parting piece of advice or wisdom that you'd like to leave with our audience? And number 2, how can they find out more about you, learn more about taking the next steps if they really connected with anything that you said? And before you answer that, folks, I want to remind you that we turn every episode into a blog post. So you can go and check out the episode here on profitwithlaw.com. So if you want to be able to review and gather notes because you were busy listening on the go, definitely just go back to profitwithlaw.com. Go to this episode. All the show notes will be there, including all the details of what Michael shared and the systems and processes that that he outlined. And lastly, we recently started our YouTube channel. So if you're not aware of that, you can catch this entire interview on video by going to YouTube and checking it out there. We also have a bunch of content that we are not releasing on the podcast. I went down to Miami, Florida, and had a production company. And in 2 days, we knocked out 46 videos that we're releasing over the course of the year on our YouTube channel. And that's exclusive content over on YouTube. So go check out the Profit with Law channel on YouTube. Michael.
So if there was one thing that I hope everybody who's listening would do, if you don't have all of the money that you want, all of the time freedom that you desire, and you're not making the level of impact or having the magic and fulfillment that you have in your life, you need to consider the system, the formula that you are using to achieve success. And if you don't have one that you can point to, I beg you, please use the one that I described to you before until you can innovate and find something else that works best for you. Because that formula is what changed the trajectory of my life. That's what caused the 2 top 100 national jury verdicts. That's what caused the improvement of my relationship with my, then 3-year-old daughter. It is a formula that is portable and deployable in any aspect of your life. And so I beg you, just find a holistic formula. And if you don't got one, use the one that I described to you, please. And of course, me or Moshe are happy to talk more about it because it sounds like we have a tremendous amount in common in terms of our pillars for success. And if you're trying to reach out to me, of course, you can always send me an email at smikun@caligula.com. But even better than that, there's a regularly scheduled shared experience, not unlike what we have here, where you can come and you can meet me and members of the team. And if you want, you could go on a website, and that website is shared experience, one word, sharedexperience.successunblinded.com, also one word. So shared experience, one word, .successunblinded.com. And that's unblinded, UNBLINDED, shared experience.successunblinded.com. And there's regularly scheduled calls that we have where we do a shared experience and we share a lot of what we discussed here. So you can send me an email, you can reach out to me on our firm's website, or you can just go right on that website that I shared with you.
And of course, that URL is in our resources section here on the podcast description, as well as on profitwithlaw.com. So if you're on the go, you can come back and simply click the link. Michael, it was a pleasure having you. I really appreciate you providing your time and energy and wisdom on the podcast today. Folks, just like every other guest, this one was mind-blowing. It's just amazing that there's so many people out there that have so much to give, so much to share, and you get to experience it by us putting that together for you. If you're not yet subscribed to this show, you want to make sure to hit the subscribe button so you know when we release a new episode. As stated at the beginning of the episode, we release a new guest episode every Thursday. We often pepper in bonus episodes when we have other stuff going on, but you can rely on us to have a new one every single Thursday coming out for you. My team they are just rock stars and constantly filling my calendar with guests. We batch produce these. We do them in advance. So even if I were to be incapacitated for 3 months, you'd still be getting an episode every Thursday. And make sure that you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss it. And finally, just the name of the game is to figure out how to run your business in a profitable way. All the secrets that can help you achieve success, they only work if you can turn your revenue into profits. And that's really why we call this Profit with Law. People focus too much on the revenue side, not enough on the profit side. So you got to be able to take all of the magic that you can learn that will drive the top level of your business and figure out how to have it achieve bottom level success for you. And that's really what I want you to focus on week to week between these episodes, is how do we make sure that we are growing in a way that makes sense, that we're focusing on profitability during this journey. And with that, I'm going to leave you and let you come and tune in to us again next Thursday. Take care. Have a great week.
Thank you.